In this video, I'm going to be talking about composition in landscape photography, and you're probably sick to death of hearing about rule of thirds all the time. It's kind of like the standard thing that everybody resorts to, and it's a good thing to be able to fall back on when you're out there shooting. But there are a lot of other ways that you can compose an image, and so I'm just going to talk about using balance and using like imaginary shapes within the landscape to kind of help create something interesting. So I'm just going to do that by looking through a couple of images and talking about how those rules of composition are applied in these photos that I'm going to show you. So in this first one here, it kind of already does conform in a way to the rule of thirds. The horizon across here is roughly on that upper third line, and the main subject is on this intersection here. But that, I don't think that's what makes this composition. If you sort of look at this main subject here, and you bring your eye down this way, it's kind of like a triangle being created in the image, and I think that is helping balance out all of the bits and pieces in the photo to create something that's just a little bit different to your typical rule of thirds shot. So the fact that we've got this big section down here of foreground, that's kind of balancing out this main subject which is up here. And just the fact that we've got this other area of the cliff down this side, it's kind of helping create that triangle shape. If all else fails, rule of thirds is the way to go, but I'm always trying to keep my eye open for sort of the interaction between different parts of the landscape in ways like this, looking for imaginary shapes. I'll just move on to the next shot that I wanted to show you. This one here, it's kind of not necessarily creating any triangles or any shapes, but the key to this shot, I think, is the fact that there's two main points of interest. The first one being this sort of interesting light that's reflecting off the rocks down here in the foreground, and then of course you've got the sun over here, which is obviously a point of interest. Now, the reason this shot works is basically because these 2 points are, they're on the opposite side of the frame to each other, and they're sort of creating that balance from bottom left to top right. And you could look at this and say that this cliff over here is creating a third point of interest. Depending on how you see this image, your eye's either going to follow the cliff up this way and then around to the main subject here, or it's just going to sort of dart straight towards the sun. If you do find your eye being led towards this cliff here, then that is going to be creating that triangle. The reason I didn't count this cliff as a point of interest to begin with is because it is really kind of dark, and it's really underexposed, creating a bit of a silhouette. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's a major part of the image. So really, I'm just sort of looking at the balance between these two sections of the photo here. That's really it for this one. Okay, on to the next shot. Again, this one is more about balance between the two main areas of the image. I mean, clearly this rock down here is probably considered the main subject, or at least it's the first thing that your eye is drawn to when you first look at this image. And the other main highlight being this bright area over here where the sun is going up behind the clouds. It's rather than it actually being like an object that your eye is drawn to, it's more the brightness. Yeah, so basically this shot here is mainly about this balance between the sort of, well, it's middle left really rather than top left, but there is that aspect of, you know, left to right balance. Now it could be said that this sort of bank of cloud up here, you know, it's quite easy to find your eye drawn to this. You know, there's some light reflecting from the sun, which is clearly coming from this direction, and you know, there's some nice contrasty clouds there. Now, yeah, I think the reason this works, this shot, because as you can see, the horizon is dead through the middle there. It's not really conforming to the rule of thirds, and the fact that this bright spot over here is in the middle of the frame rather than on one of the intersections between the rule of thirds points. Yeah, the reason I still think this works is because of this area up here in the clouds. It creates another point of interest and then helps to you know, create that triangle again between the three main elements in the photo. And the last image that I want to show you really is more a case of when it doesn't really work. So when I took this shot, you know, I was more concentrating on just getting the foreground into the frame and you know, getting this nice color in the water, and there was lots of clouds going on over here. And for some reason, it didn't really occur to me that the main subject, you know, the brightest point of the image was right on the edge of the frame over here. So I would say this is an example of when the balance isn't quite right. Now, I mean, I quite like the colours, and I'm really, you know, I was happy with how I composed the foreground, and you know, this big bit here of the reef under the water. You know, it's kind of, the objects seem to be leaning towards pointing in this direction here. But the thing is, you know, the problem is that, you know, the sun is rising here, not here. So yeah, I mean, what's actually happening when we look at this image? You sort of come in at this big foreground here, all these interesting rocks, and then, for me at least, you know, my eye is drawn instantly this way and straight out of the frame, which, you know, basically it's a really unbalanced photo just purely because of the brightness that's happening over here on the left hand side of the frame. You know, I find myself not even really looking over here, just, yeah, like I said, purely because of the brightness and what's going on here. Now, potentially this could be fixed with a bit of creative post-processing. You know, I might choose to darken this area completely and then brighten this area up in the middle, to see if I can divert the attention of the eye so it's kind of, you know, going that way instead. In fact, what I might do, I might just see if I can have a quick mess around and see if that works now. So yeah, it's not brilliant, but I think it sort of proves as a decent example of how you can actually change and divert your attention with some, just simple darkening and lightening um, of the areas in your shot. I mean, this is still sort of quite vibrant and obviously yellow because of the sun. Over here is not really, the colours aren't really going off, but it's that sort of exposure, that the difference in the brightness that I've just created, that it kind of does help create a bit of balance now. And so you might say that the sort of the eye travels from these points, or from this foreground here, up to the top right, which it does make it more of a balanced shot. But like I said, not the greatest image, but I just wanted to show you a case of when the balance is slightly off, and potentially how you might fix it in post-processing. But sometimes you just have to write a shot off, no matter how much you think it could have worked. Sometimes it's just a shame that it happens.